Alright guys, so I'll be doing a power steering fluid flush on my M156 ML63 AMG. Now this should pretty much apply to any M156, that would be an ML63, a C63, an old E63, or anything like that. They all pretty much the same setup in terms of where the power steering reservoir is, which is right here, smack dab in the middle of the engine bay. It's in fact just below the star on the engine cover, so to remove that piece. Don't mind my completely disassembled front end. That's for the stuff going on with the car, but this should pretty much be the same process for any of you guys. This should be relatively simple to do, shouldn't take very long at all, but the most annoying part will be cleanup. So keep that in mind, you have plenty of rags aside for fluid and all that. You really want to avoid getting on the belt. It's also recommended that you change out the actual reservoir every about 70,000 miles, as there's an internal filter which cannot be replaced. So you usually just replace the entire reservoir, so I've got one right here to be replacing the reservoir. So this only adds basically one step to this entire procedure, which means you got to remove some stuff above the reservoir to kind of get stuff out of the way so we can put the new reservoir in place. Just going to give you guys a quick rundown of what's going to go on. So first of all, we're going to drain all the fluid from the reservoir, so take the cap off and then we can see how much is in there. Should be pretty much full. It's obviously cold right now. This car's been here for a few days not doing anything, so it'll be cold right now. No worrying about burning yourself, but we'll drain that first, and then what we're going to do is take the return line, which is, I believe in all cases, the top line right here for the 156. And if you're unsure in your case, if you have a different motor or something like that, it'll be whichever one comes from the power steering cooler, which for the ML at least is this guy right here. And if you look back at the line, this top line for the power steering reservoir goes all the way to the cooler. So that's what we'll be doing, but in my case what I'll be doing is I'll be taking, well, first of all, draining the reservoir, taking both lines off, then putting both lines on the new reservoir, and then we'll do the flush through the new one, because when we get fluid level kind of high, we want to ensure that it's in the new reservoir and not the old one, so we don't waste any fluid. But yeah, other than that, it should be pretty straightforward. One thing I wanted to mention is that these clips, I've learned from my BMW, they're really annoying. So they're pretty much one-time use, which I don't really like that at all. So what I've done is I bought some clips from Home Depot, just some typical screw-on ones, which are the normal style clip, and we'll be using those instead. So these are pretty easy to remove. Is just you got to stick a flathead screwdriver in one part of it and twist it, and it'll basically pop off very easily. First thing we gotta do to remove this reservoir, kind of get it ready for removal, is to take off this air hose. So it attaches right down here to this other air hose. We can just kind of slide that piece off. This piece is now free, can rotate, but we're gonna take this entire kind of thing off. It'll kind of snap out of place. Just a little bit of tugging, and then it should come out. Like that side's off right there now, and then this side will also come off. Just to punch myself in the face or the camera, but it is what it is. Put that to the side. Alright, moving on. So you might want to remove this vacuum line just so you don't put any stress in it. It has to move around. It does kind of route into the kind of a back plastic piece, kind of slots in there on the reservoir itself, so we can remove this guy. So I've got to remove this piece from this guy over here, and the entire thing is pretty much off. And we can actually route this through and below if we wanted to, but I'm not going to right now because we don't need to. This is actually pretty brittle, so this is a good time to change it out. I think it's just a vacuum line, so if you got any vacuum lines laying around, I just swap out while you can. Last part of removing the reservoir, or at least second to last kind of, is just undoing this T30 Torx right here, and that'll release the reservoir. Kind of slots in two grommets below, so we just gotta kind of pop them out. Yeah. Alright, that's pretty much all I can get out just by turning the steering wheel side by side. The fluid's definitely discolored, but it doesn't look awful. I can still see a hint of green, which is a good sign. Alrighty, now I'm going to put the cap back on. We don't want any excess fluid sloshing around. Okay, undo that T30 right now, which is right here. If you follow those hoses just a little bit down, they kind of go into this little clamp right around over there. You want to pull those out of those clamps so they're a little bit more free to move. Alright, with those hoses out of that kind of clamp, we can kind of pull on the reservoir, and it'll just slide on up. Just want to make sure we don't do any damage. In fact, I may pull this hose back a little bit more. Kind of got to wiggle it out of there. And there we go. Got the reservoir more or less out. Obviously it's just still attached by those hoses. Alright, now we can more clearly see the two hoses that go to the reservoir. We got the return line up here, and we got the high pressure line down here. We got to take both of these off. Now this clamp is really the pain in the ass, pardon my language, but this clamp is kind of the same one that's on your coolant radiator hoses. I actually bought a tool for this just from O'Reilly's. Here it is. Essentially just, it's got this long cable on it, but this end, I can show you this side, it's got some pliers on it. So essentially, these pliers, it allows you to clamp down on one of those dumb clamps, like so. So you see this over here. This kind of goes on both ends of the clamp itself, and then as you squeeze this part, it squeezes down there, which makes it much easier to kind of deal with. So in this case, for example, I put this, over here, and then kind of get it on there properly, and then I would clamp down with the pliers, and we would be all set to move the hose off of there. Now in this case, it's kind of small enough we could probably just use some normal pliers. However, I hate these clamps overall, and if I can, I'll replace them with a normal stainless steel sort of just normal screw-on type. So in this case, I'll try and preserve this one going because it's high pressure. But for this one, I'll definitely be replacing this with a screw-on type. So with this one, it's a little bit different actually. So by sticking my pick tool in that little slot, the entire clamp is now loose, and I can actually just take it off like so. Again, some silicone spray would be a lot more helpful right now, but yeah. Alright, so I've actually placed the entire reservoir in a plastic bag, got some paper towels right over here. These guys will be your friend throughout this entire thing, so now the clamp's kind of off, I can try and kind of pull it off. And that was anticlimactic. There's zero fluid in there, probably because you drained the reservoir, so that's a good sign. I'm going to put this to the side for now. I'll leave it just right here. So while I'm here, I'm going to attach this return line to this hose I have over here from Home Depot. It is only, I believe, a quarter diameter, outer diameter, which is the only part that matters really. I'm just going to slide it in there, and that should be good enough, I think. And I'm going to place the other end of it into the waste bottle I have down here. You can see I've got my little vinyl tube over here, one end of the return line, one end going to the waste bottle. Just put some tape around just to make sure it doesn't kind of move around too much. Alright, I got my kind of cool tool on this little clamp over here, and we can kind of slide this one off as well. This one's probably going to be a bit more messy. I'm going to see if I can kind of remove the clamp down here, and then just, let's see if I can do that. This one's definitely more stubborn, that's for sure. A little bit of silicone went a long way. Let's see if it'll come off now. Easy does it. And there we go. A little bit of fluid, but it's okay because we were prepared. Alright, I've got my new reservoir right here. As you can see, it's capped off on both ports. The high pressure line right here, we're going to take this one off. It's also got a cap on the low pressure side, the return, so I'm going to leave that one in there because we're going to use the return right now to empty out into the waste. So it's kind of good that kind of empty to kind of give you a plug like that to do that. So while I have the high pressure hose clamp undone, I'm going to go ahead and reconnect it right now to this new reservoir. Alright, here we go. I got my new reservoir attached to my high pressure line right there, and now we can actually start flushing the system out. So that's pretty cool. Alright, it's now time to fill up a reservoir, or a new reservoir at least, with new fluid. I got this LiquiMoly steering fluid right over here. Now, it's recommended to use CHF 11S, but this came with the FCP Euro kit to replace the reservoir. Heard good things about it. It's essentially the same thing, even the same color if you want to take a quick look. It's even got the this nice kind of funnel to put the fluid in through, which is perfect. Makes it a lot easier to fill up this reservoir. So when you put up, we're going to fill it up as much as we can. Then we're going to go to the car, accessory mode on, and put the wheel lock to lock. And then come back to the car, check the level, continuously add fluid. We're going to see fluid come out this return line over here, and basically until that is completely clean, then we'll be flush. But until then, we'll keep doing this. Alright, so now I got the fluid topped off. I'm going to go to the car, accessory mode on, turn the wheel all the way to the right lock, then back to center. Just want to see where the fluid is before I go all the way left to right, but I'll see how much that drains out first off. While I do that, you guys can check out what the fluid looks like coming out. Alright, went all the way to the left lock actually, and I got to fill up the reservoir and top it off. Alright, all topped off. Now we can go continue. Again, when this fluid turns green, that means we know we're good. Alright, 1 liter down, about half to go. So I got my second liter over here. This should be enough to kind of clean out the entire system, so we should be seeing some green soon. Alright guys, this is pretty much perfect right there. Now, keep in mind, it's not going to be completely perfect, right? You will have some fluid mixing, so it's going to be a little bit darker color, but I'd say that's pretty much green. And compared with what we had before, it's a huge improvement, and I still have some fluid left over from when we inevitably to top it off. Alrighty, so after doing this power steering fluid flush, we're going to drive your car around for just a little bit around the block maybe, and just check out your steering level after that, and maybe after your first drive as well, just check the level. You will be getting some air bubbles out of the system. But other than that, that's essentially it for this video. Just want to kind of talk about those vacuum lines real quick. They were pretty awful, honestly, so I'm glad I changed them out. They're pretty much cracking, about to fall apart. So I put the one over here and the one that goes from the manifold to over here. So please, if your car's a little more high mileage like mine, well, I wouldn't say mine's high mileage, but it's about appropriate for what the age is. It's about 80,000 miles and 11 years old. So if you're kind of around that mileage, your vacuum lines would probably have gone bad at this point. So change them out. I have to check my C-Class, see how bad they are on that car, because that car is much newer. Although I doubt they're that bad. So yeah, I hope this video helped you out. It's a good way to keep your power steering system in good health. Now, some people say to change your fluid even more frequently, but I honestly don't see a need to do that. This stuff is meant to last actually the life of the car, but we all know that's kind of BS. But I think I changed my power steering fluid on my BMW for the first time at about 100,000 miles, and car felt fine even after I did it, so it felt basically the same. Fluid was not much darker than that, so I would say, 70,000 miles is kind of a good mark to hit, especially because of that built-in filter. So I'll just probably change this the next time at 140,000 miles. So that's it, and peace out.